Dr. Prepper here again, everyone, and we're talking about the Mini 14 by Ruger, or if you own post 2005 like me, known as the Ranch Rifle. This one I have here is the Ranch Rifle in 5.56. Yes, it is stamped right here, Ranch Rifle 5.56. There are some sticklers out there that say if that receiver isn't stamped for 5.56, not to shoot 5.56 out of it, and only to shoot 223 because of the pressures. I personally think that's a little silly, but anyway, it is stamped for 5.56. This is definitely one of my favorite guns. There's a lot of comparisons to the AR and a lot of other platforms out there. Off the bat, it is combat-wise not a better platform than the AR, than a well-built or comparative AR, price-wise. That's just due to ergonomics and magazine changing and parts and the way you can customize those ARs to really suit your needs. So anyway, so the Mini 14, it weighs in at 6.5 pounds stock, probably with the synthetic. I think the synthetic's a little lighter than the wood. The overall's 37 and like a quarter inches. There are shorter versions out there. The NRA and the tactical versions are shorter. I think if the if you're looking at like the AC, what is it? The AC 5.56. That's the fully automatic one. I think they have like a 13-inch barrel or 13.5-inch barrel. Same with like the government GB version. That's like the A-Team one with the folding stock and pistol grip. Those are all the older versions that do have that pencil barrel. When they redid this gun and made it the Ranch Rifle in 2005, they built up the receiver a bit. They tightened up the tolerances. They changed the sights to having just the single blade to 3 blades on the front sight, and the rear sight is no longer a flip down sight but just a fixed peep sight. They've been making these since 1973. They've kind of earned a bad reputation for their accuracy, really due to those factors, really to that barrel, to harmonics. Those have really all been kind of ironed out since now. Mine is a 583 series. I think anything post 580 series, you're really going to be good to go. Geez, the bolt system in this, it is the rotating bolt from the Garand action. This whole gun is kind of, it's called a Mini 14, but it's really like a hybrid between the Garand and the M1 carbine. Really a reliable, tried and true, and kind of a legendary action that she's got on here. It's got the self-cleaning fixed piston gas system in here, which is really great. It's really reliable. Like I said, it is self-cleaning, at least the gas block, and you're not going to have to get in that gas block and really clean it out or anything. You're not getting your gases coming back into your chamber, into your receiver, your breech, or anything, because they're all escaping through here, through the handguard. Especially on the stock handguard, there's a nice gap there for all the gas to escape, and the carbon and everything. That's kind of just a quick history on the gun. There is 5, 10s, 20s, 30s, 40s, and probably hundreds and whatever capacity magazines for the gun. Alright, so what we want to talk about here is, as far as home defense for this gun, is this something that you're going to want to reach for if you have someone breaking into your home, probably at nighttime, on drugs or alcohol or bath salts or whatever. Maybe. Definitely that shotgun. I'm sorry, you just can't replace that shotgun. The pistols, pistols are cool too. Everyone's worried about the penetration, and so am I. As you know, as far as penetration goes, I am a fan of some penetration. Like I said, if you need some penetration wherever that threat is, maybe you don't want to be face to face with the threat, and a little penetration will defend you without having to be face to face with whatever you're defending yourself against. As far as these 2.23 and 5.56 rounds, they are very high velocity, around 3,000 feet per second. You know, if you have hollow tip or hollow point rounds, I don't know how well the penetration is. You know, they're probably going to break up pretty quickly. It's still something to consider. It is also an extremely loud gun. That's probably not, you know, round rather, because it's such high velocity. I don't think that's something that I'd be worried about too much in a home defense. You are going to startle the crap out of your family and your neighbors and yourself. You know, that's not something that should stop you. Something to consider. This would be in home defense and survival and shit hit the fan and really, or at any tactical situation. These magazines, they are like a rock and lock style, like the AK. A little different. It doesn't have like a big lip on here like the AK does. It has a hole with a with like a peg in here that you're going to hook on that peg through that hole and lock it into place. And when you release, same thing. But it can be, you know, when you practice a lot, which I do, you know, you're pretty much good to go. But they are a little harder than the AK to come in and out. They can be a little finicky. You know, you got to mess around with them. It's not something, you know, just to take that extra thought process out when you're in a charged situation, we'll call it. So that's something to consider. As far as home defense, you know, if you need more than 10 rounds or 20 rounds or 30 rounds, you know, whatever you got, I mean, you know, you're going way beyond, I would say, a home defense situation at that point. But it is something to consider as far as the magazines, and the reloads could be a little bit tricky. I don't really have too much of a problem. You know, if you kind of practice, mess around with your gun and get real familiar with it, it's not going to be a major issue. Another thing with home defense, I'm not the biggest flashlight laser beam fan. You can make it work on this gun with the right rail. There's all types of chassis systems you could buy. You can get pretty carried away with these. I like to keep it simple. Some of those chassis systems make it a little difficult to get to the guts of the gun if you needed to the rifle. On this Omega rail system that I have here, these are not just gas release holes, they're also threaded, so you can thread on Picatinny rails onto here, and you know, you can hang a flashlight off of there, or laser beams, or you know, if that's really what you want to do. I guess it's a good idea to have a flashlight for home defense, just to click it on, just to know what you're shooting beforehand. But if you know where your family is, and you should be yelling throughout your house, you know. Anyway, that's a whole nother discussion. But anyway, just something to keep in mind. Not so easy to put flashlights and lasers on here and all those other doodads, but it is possible. Like we said, you know, it's got good magazine capacity. You could really crank the rounds out with these 5.56 2.23. You know, you could really get a fast rate of fire if that's what needs to be, whether it be a large threat or just for intimidation or you know, accuracy by volume. Nothing wrong with that, I guess. You do have to be careful of where you're pointed, obviously. I think those are some basic home defense strategies and tactics that should really be discussed in a different video. It's light, it's maneuverable, it's 6.5 pounds. It's, like I said, 37 inches. It's short, you can get around corners. It's not like a really long gun. It's not as short as an AR, but it is certainly short enough for you to maneuver through your home with this rifle. Now, you know, also as well as optics, this does come with the those Ruger, they're like proprietary. I don't know what they call it, some kind of dovetail type of ring that fits on there. But you could put a Picatinny rail on top. With this that I have here, so I do ride a Vortex red dot on here sometimes. I'm really a fan of the iron sights, home defense. It's kind of a point and shoot situation, in my opinion. If you are semi-trained or have shot your rifle enough, it really is kind of a point and shoot, muscle memory type of deal. In my opinion, everyone's different, then that's all good. Sometimes the optics, as far as like micro dots, they're a little bit in my way. I feel them a little bit obstructive sometimes, but they certainly have their place, and everyone is a little different. That's just how I feel. So it is optics ready, depending on what your route is, as far as that. In like a long-term survival, bug out, shit hit the fan, whatever, no laws type of deal, I think it's a great gun. I don't see any problem with having this Mini 14. This gun catches so much flack out there, probably because of 30 years of being like a 4 MOA rifle, and really just kind of maybe not a truck gun, but just like a back of the closet type of gun. You know, not really a combat weapon. You know, the French have used it as an assault rifle. It has been used recently in like 2011 in a terrorist attack or something. You know, the police were using it, and it certainly can be used. It's it uses a common round, easy to find, light, easy to carry. Maybe not always a one-hit kill, really, with this round. I've heard philosophies that it's has been designed to injure almost more than kill, because theoretically, I mean, this is all theory, but just that it'll pull more manpower off the battlefield. I don't know if that's true or not, but you know, it's not a 40 caliber round. It's not a slug, but you know, it'll certainly take you down. Now, the capacity is also a plus. You know, the magazines, you got to keep in mind. Now, I would say a big benefit about this with the long-term survival is that there's no like little springs in here that can get loose on you. If you've ever taken your AR apart a bunch of times, you know, I think, you know, I don't care how many times you've taken that thing apart, you know, you're bound to have a screw or two, you know, get away from you. You know, man, there's some tiny little parts. Now you lose one, and you could lose the whole functionality of your rifle just off a tiny spring. It's not like that with this gun. It's very simple. You got big chunky parts in here, very easy to clean, very simple, and you know, reliability on this action. It is an open action. I've seen guys dumping dirt and sand and caking mud into here. You know, I mean, let's get real. That's probably not something you're going to be faced with. I really don't think so. Unless you're caught in some kind of mudslide with your rifle, you're probably going to lose it anyway. You know, you're not going to be sifting. You know, I've seen guys sifting sand with a flour sifter into the thing. I mean, really? You know, I get it. You know, and of course it's not going to work. You can get to this action and clean it up pretty quick, pretty easy, with water, with piss, with spit, with, you know, anything you got around. Just you can kind of pour it on there and clean it up pretty good. Take this apart pretty easily. The tolerances aren't as tight as an AR. I'm not saying it's better than an AR, so hold your horses. But in that aspect, I do like that about this gun over the AR, as far as tolerances and the fact that you can access this bolt in the action very quickly and easily. Hunting wise, it is a good round for hunting. You can take out small game, big game, very big game. You know, with headshots, we all know people get carried away with their 22s and they can take out a moose and shoot them in the eye and everything. It's possible. So, you know, it's definitely a good hunting round. I don't know how much, you know, ammo you're going to be using for hunting more than trapping, really, in a situation like that, due to noise and lack of supplies and things. Let's see what else. It'll you know, as far as what's 5.5, you know, there's discussions with the steel case and the brass casing 5.56 out there. Of course, this will cycle anything. I mean, so will my AR. I have a Wyndham AR that cycles steel casing no problem. What happens with the steel casing is that it doesn't expand like the brass casing does, and so since it doesn't really expand like that, you do get some gassing around the cartridge and into the chamber. It can kind of coat coat the chamber where you can get around jammed in there because you're getting a carbon buildup since you don't have that brass in there kind of expanding and filling all like the micro gaps that are there. That's what I hear. I hear that's why that's the 7.62 round is kind of shaped, kind of has a conical shape to it, because it can be extracted from the chamber easier with that type of shape instead of having a straight shell. And that really wraps up this gun, guys. I mean, this Mini 14, I'm getting 2 MOA, if not less, out of this gun. At 100 yards, it's really right up there with an equal cost AR, in my opinion. I think it's fantastic. I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not saying it's better for combat situations. The way the AR is built, the way it handles recoil, not that there's much, but the way it handles recoil, the way you can switch your mags so easy, all the different ways you can accessorize your gun, and just the overall ergonomics of that rifle really do make it better for combat situation. I would be so confident carrying this Ruger into battle, or having it with me as my one and only. I do have the AccuStrut on here. This isn't part of the gassing system if you're unfamiliar with the rifle. I do find that this does help with the accuracy, and I didn't have a problem with the accuracy to begin with, so let's not get carried away. I did kind of get it for looks, half for looks, half for performance, and it does help. Believe it or not, so does this Omega Rail. It does add some weight, as does the AccuStrut. You could say it does help with muzzle rise, which it does, not that there's a ton anyway. But for whatever reason, this rail does help me get a little bit of accuracy, a little more accuracy out of the gun. So this gun is, like, I'd probably say a 1.5 MOA shooting rifle with these accessories on it. I did polish, do a bit of a trigger job in here. The trigger's a really nice trigger. I would say after you polish, it was a little gritty. Aside from that, it was good to go. And that's it, guys. That's the Ruger Mini 14. Do not be ashamed of your Ruger, and if you're a total AR fanboy, I mean, get real. Get yourself a Mini 14, a newer version of it, and I'm not saying replace your AR, please. I'm not saying do that, but boy, oh boy, this would have no problem in my hands in any situation. That's it, folks. Dr. Prepper out.